Hey, what's up guys? UrAvgWarGamer is back with another video of World of Warships. And in this video, I'm going to be featuring top 5 most powerful battleships that you can play right now in the ranked battles. Now these battleships, I would rate them very highly for these factors which I think are important for the ranked battles. Now the ranked battle in the Bronze League is tier 8 versus tier 8, so at least you are not going to be bottom tier, which is a very good thing, and hence the reason why these are the ships that I believe these battleships will perform a lot much more better compared to the other options that we have right now available. With that said, let's talk about these battleships. Now again, these are my personal opinions and thoughts on these ships, and I will also gonna explain the reasons from the strengths to the weaknesses and also give you some certain reasons that why I would prefer one ship over the other. So with that said, let's talk about our number 5th pick for the battleship that you can play in the ranked battles right now, which is gonna be pretty good accordingly to the meta and the standards. Especially there are going to be some aircraft carriers. So let's talk about the number 5th battleship that in this list is going to be the Ipiranga. One of the newest, I would say, Pan-American battleship line at tier 8 that I would say is very strong right now for many reasons, okay? Now Ipiranga compared to the Tirpitz or maybe the Bismarck, because it's a secondary battleship, secondary focus battleship, there are certain things that kinda gives it a lot much more edge over the other German brawlers. There are many reasons. One of the reasons that I absolutely love Ipiranga over Tirpitz is something that will just gonna do pretty well in this today's meta, with a lot of HE spam, a lot of carrier potential in just terms of doing some firepower, is the repair party. You have 60 seconds of cooldown time. For a brawling battleship, it is significant. Now, I already really love the Massachusetts, Ohio, and Georgia. These are really strong premium American battleships simply because of their brawling capabilities and the amount of survivability that they get from the fast cooldown on heals. Well, in the case of Ipiranga, it's also 60 seconds. Not 40 seconds, 60 seconds. But it is certainly better than 80 seconds of what you get on the German battleships right now. Tirpitz, Bismarck does have 80 seconds. So that is a big improvement for our brawling battleship. Also, one more thing that I really love about the Ipiranga is that it has 6 guns, which does mean that you have a good broadside salvo. You have pretty okay sigma. It has 1.7 sigma for the 12 guns. Now the amount of shells that you can throw is something that I actually like compared to maybe I would say over Tirpitz and Bismarck. Even I would also kind of rate it a bit better over the Brandenburg because it also have access to 12 guns. But even then, I like Ipiranga a lot more. Now, the thing about the Ipiranga that it does not have access to torpedoes, which I would say is sort of a disadvantage, but in return, what it gets is the really good secondary batteries, right? You have improved HE pen, which actually kind of feels like similar to that of Tirpitz. You have 150mm guns that also have 38mm pen on the German Tirpitz or Bismarck, maybe you can say, but also Ipiranga does have access to that really good armor pen at 38mm with slightly better fire chance, and also the alpha damage is significantly better over the Tirpitz, which means that you are kind of having the cruiser alpha in terms of the gun performance compared to the Tirpitz, for example, 1.7k, which again I felt a lot much more better over the Ipiranga. You will simply find out with this good pen and alpha, you will be easily able to do really good damage once they are into your secondary range. Your guns are pretty good with 1.7 sigma because you have a lot of guns. It does help a lot, even though the reload time might be onto the higher side at 33 seconds, but I still kinda like a lot of volume of shells that you can throw onto the enemy, means that you can be able to citadel cruisers a bit consistently over maybe 8-gun battleships like Tirpitz or Bismarck. At least that's kinda my personal opinion, but I felt that a lot. Also, one more thing that it has, it's going to be the survivability. Now, survivability of the Ipiranga is pretty much similar to Tirpitz, but here comes the weakness that kind of makes it at tier 5 and kind of, sets it a bit back, even compared to the Tirpitz, is that it does not have turtle back sort of armor, which means that if you find yourself getting broadside to the enemy ships, you are going to take actually citadels on broadside, because its citadel is there for sure. And I actually somehow managed to get citadel from cruisers as well. I don't know how, but the heavy cruisers, some large cruisers can also have a good chance in citadeling Ipiranga. That's what I have felt. But even then, I would say Ipiranga, other than showing broadside, is still going to be very tanky battleship. Your side armor is 51mm, which is gonna be pretty good. Your superstructure is kinda, I would say, slightly better than Tirpitz. Like, Tirpitz does also have like gigantic superstructure. In the case of Ipiranga, you does have, at least what I felt, is smaller, relatively smaller superstructure. Your torpedo protection is fine. It's nothing too bad, but not too good as well. It's just, I would say, slightly edge, above average, which is fine. But here comes the another thing that just gonna make it better at ranges compared to the Tirpitz, and that is its FK. Now, the FK obsession of wargaming for the last few months or for some time is kind of crazy. But here's the thing that makes Ipiranga really good. You already have the base firing range of 7.6 km, which you can get it up to 11.3. But with the FK, you can increase your range to like 13.7 to 13.8 km. I don't exactly remember the number, but the secondary battery range increases once you have the FK ready, which is very easy to do that by simply getting potential damage as well as just doing shell damage onto a target. Like if you hit the shells onto the target, you're just gonna get the FK ready, which is like very easy. And you can just proc this FK extremely quickly once you are in the brawling situation. And your range, your reload time, and your damage is gonna get significantly better, which you will not going to find on the Tirpitz, for example. Pushing onto the battleship at close ranges might be giving edge to Tirpitz because of the torpedoes. But again, at medium ranges to short ranges where you are not closer to like 6 km or 5 km, Ipiranga, I felt, still going to perform a lot much more better with these improved secondaries, at least with these 152mm improved HE pen guns compared to Tirpitz because of the alpha. And so you also have very fast heals, which makes up for it with very good survivability with decent firing range. It's not like too impressive compared to, I would say, Tirpitz. Again, I kind of always going to compare it to Tirpitz because it is kind of having similar sort of parameters, except couple of differences. Now here comes another weakness that I think that at least one of these battleship that I'm recommending you is going to be suffering a bit in ranked battles, and that is going to be its anti-defense. Now, its anti-defense is kind of pretty much similarly like German battleship. At least at tier 8, it is not really good. Maybe at tier 10, it could be slightly better, but I still felt that its anti-defense is very lacking. You are going to be very vulnerable to CV strikes, so you have to be keeping yourself a bit out of the situation where the carrier is going to be pouncing on you and taking you on. Otherwise, the Ipiranga is going to be so strong overall that you can just farm battleships and cruisers once they are within your secondary range. And I mean you have the F key, which you can, if someone just gets out of your range, for example the secondaries, right, your secondaries have like 11.3 km if I'm not wrong at tier 8. Once someone gets out, if you have the F key ready, you can just say get over here, and then you just pounce the secondaries even at long ranges. So that guy who thought that he might be able to get out of your secondary range, well, your F key suddenly gives you the action time to 30 seconds. He won't be able to do that for at least that much time, which again, a huge advantage. The only weakness again that I will say about the Ipiranga is that the armor piercing shells are kind of anemic. And I would say try to use HE, because then you also don't have access to overmatch. 356mm guns does not have really good pen. But you always switch to HE, set fires with really good fire chance and also the alpha damage. So that is something that you should be trying to do, at least in Ipiranga. On broadside at close to medium ranges, you somehow can able to do good damage to battleship, at least with the pen damage, and also Citadel, the cruisers, a bit consistently because of the amount of shells that you're going to be throwing compared to the Tirpitz 8 guns. So because of these factors, I really like the Ipiranga. Also, I cannot emphasize enough about the maneuverability that Ipiranga has. It has some of the most bonkers acceleration that Wargaming has given to the Ipiranga, Los Andes, and the Libertad. All of them have really good acceleration and also able to just turn like dime. It just kind of makes life a lot much more easy if you know what you're doing. You can able to speed juke shells, which you cannot do at all in Tirpitz. Tirpitz seems to be a lot much more chunkier and bulkier and slower than Ipiranga itself. This is something that is just really impressive. Also, if you have the commander, which is Joaquim Marquez Lisboa, the legendary captain, along with the FK, gonna give you significant buff, like 22.5% secondary damage, 5% main battery reload time buff, is something that is very easy to get in the in the case of Ipiranga, with the help of the legendary captain. Gonna make it really amazing if you have that legendary captain on Ipiranga. It's just gonna makes it even more highly recommended battleship if you have that captain. I cannot emphasize enough. You can also increase the 5% speed and also able to get the F key to 20% more. Like base 20% is going to be increased, so you only have to proc for like you really have to do like 80% of the work for the F key to get ready instead of 100%. That's what I want to say. So with that means the Ipiranga, in my opinion, have more strengths than weaknesses in general, at least in my comparison to maybe Tirpitz, Bismarck, or maybe even Brandenburg, except for the torpedoes at close ranges. Otherwise, it's a really good package at number 5. I hope I just explained everything that I have to. You never underestimate these HE volleys that you can throw with the Ipiranga. Try to use the HE and you will be finding it really powerful battleship at tier 8 for the ranked battle with this insanely good acceleration. At number 4, and I would say it's a bit tough one because the Hawke seems to be taking the lead compared to, for I would say, the Vladivostok, which is a Russian tier 8 battleship, tech 3 battleship, and the North Carolina. All of these battleships that I have talked right now, or at least I have said the word, they are really good. But for some reason, I felt that Hawke is gonna be a lot much more powerful in the ranked battles, simply because first weakness that it's gonna mitigate over Ipiranga, which I have explained at number 5. Hawke has way better anti-air defense. It has anti-air defense that can actually able to do something, if nothing, against carriers. I mean, Ipiranga can't be able to shoot down much planes at all, and you are going to get 2 full strikes. For example, if the carrier have 3 strikes, you will get 2 full strikes. In the case of Hawke, with defensive AA fire and with the really impressive, I would say not that super impressive, but it actually having above average anti-defense rating that Hawke gets, better than Tirpitz, better than Ipiranga, better than many other battleships out there, tech 3 battleships and premium battleships out there. The Hawke with defensive fire gets a lot much more powerful. Now, if I can just get the B hull, you can see here that the continuous damage is pretty good. The anti-defense rating gets up to almost 80, which I would say with the really good medium range AA guns, like as you can see, it goes over more than 500 damage per DPS, whatever you call it, continuous AA damage, which I would say with defensive fire gets even better. And so you can somehow manage to fend off the airstrikes, which you find it really, really annoying if they are going towards you. Also, to make Hawke even better, just like I said, I find the heals cooldown to be very, very useful in the ranked battles. Yeah, I mean, you want to get into the situation where you have a lot of tankiness. In the case of Hawke, maybe in terms of armor layout, it's not like Tirpitz, it's not like Ipiranga, but what it still has going for it is the repair party. As you can see here, you have a cooldown timer of 60 seconds. Pretty much similar of that of Ipiranga. Also, to mitigate for, I would say, not the best of the armor, or actually not good armor at all compared to many other battleships. For example, Vladivostok is going to be extremely tanky battleship at tier 8. But even then, I would kinda give Hawke some edge simply because of the gun performance. And also your speed is something that is very, very useful in getting from one flank to other with the very good concealment that Hawke has. So your speed boost and your base speed will increase the speed like up to at least 35 or 36 knots. And don't forget to use brisk. If you're able to use the brisk on Hawke, it can get even faster. So you have pretty good speed comparable to those of some really fast cruisers, I would say, or even some destroyers. So 37, 36 knots of speed, I would say, is pretty impressive for a tier 8 battleship. Just like I said, defensive air fire, just like I said, you also have improved cooldown time. It's just gonna make it so good. Now also the Hawke strength lies on the repair party. It also have improved repairs compared to, for example, I would compare it to Vladivostok again. Vladi has 3 base heals, Hawke has 4 base heals. Also the NC and North Carolina also have 4 base heals, but here comes the Hawke that I give a bit of an edge in terms of healing performance. Not only your cooldown is better, just like I said, you also be able to heal 18.5% of the ship's total HP. Now that is really nice, right? Compared to the Vladivostok's only like 14%-ish, and compared to the NC's only, I would say 16.8%. Even though NC also have slightly improved healing potential, Hawke still gonna be healing almost 20% healing potential with the India Delta flag. I hope I'm right about that, but you can just heal back quite a bit of your HP compared to the other battleship that I was talking about. They are good, don't get me wrong, but again, Hawke is, I felt, better. Now, in terms of gun performance, is something which I would say, again, I would like to give edge to Hawke simply because you have 9 guns, like Vladivostok and North Carolina, but now the Hawke has access to battle cruiser dispersion with 1.6 Sigma. Now, you might say, oh, it's really bad. 1.6 Sigma does not come even close to North Carolina's also buffed 2.05 Sigma. I agree with that. But still, you don't get battlecruiser dispersion on the Vladivostok nor on the NC. In fact, well, you can kind of say that the Vladivostok gets improved dispersion. The Soviet dispersion improvement gets with the medium to close ranges. Well, you don't get it on Hawke. But here comes the big difference. Vladdy at long ranges is going to be not good at all, even compared to NC. Because NC still has 2.05 Sigma. But Hawke has battlecruiser dispersion with 1.6 Sigma. But here comes something which makes these guns a lot much more special compared to these battleships that I have mentioned. You have insanely strong HE salvo that you can throw with absolutely insanely good fire chance. 45% fire chance, almost 6k alpha, which is also very, very close to that of Monarch. Its counterpart, tier 8 tech 3 battleship, which again, in terms of armor performance, might not be that good, or I would say pretty much similar to Hawke, maybe slightly better because of the bow armor plating of 32mm versus Hawke 25mm. But even then, I mean, Monarch also have super heal, but still, because of these guns that are very, very close in performance with HE and significantly better fire chance compared to the Monarch's 36% or 35%, yeah, so that's kind of makes Hawke guns HE very special against those bow-in targets like battleships, and also your AP performance is going to be a lot much more consistent simply because you have short fuse AP, which means any light cruiser like, for example, the Harbin, for example, many light cruisers like Wiesbaden, the premium Wiesbaden that I'm talking about, some of the light cruisers like, for example, Neptune, not Neptune, Edinburgh, I would say tier 8 cruiser, Edinburgh. These are all light cruisers that you might face, Otago you might face. You will be able to smash them pretty nice and pretty clear way possible because of these short fuse AP. They will be able to not give you overpans, except they will just simply give you Citadel because of the short fuse that I was talking about. Your reload time is also pretty good, and your anti-defense, as I already said, pretty good. Now, on top of that, because of the speed that it has, you can reposition with the very impressive concealment. Now, your concealment can go down to, I would say, around 12 point something kilometer. I haven't calculated it exactly, but as you can see here, it will help so much with the gun performance. Your AP also gonna smash a lot. Your alpha damage on the AP is very, very nice for 406mm guns. So with these factors, you will find that the Hawke is gonna be pretty good. Now, if you might think that, oh, the NC and the Vladivostok might be better at close ranges simply because of their better bow armor. And also the Vladivostok have 45mm deck armor, which you can always say that it is better than Hawke. Well, here's the thing that I find to be compensating Hawke pretty nicely, and that is going to be the torpedoes. You are not going to get these weird torpedoes that you can drop on a bow in battleship pushing towards you with these torpedoes. Like, these torpedoes are very, very nice addition to your already punchy guns if you are in a brawling sort of condition. So that is going to be huge advantage against those tech 3 battleships that I have explained. Tripets have 4 torpedoes, you also have 4 torpedoes. Now, I don't exactly remember that if you launch only 2 torpedoes on each side or something like that, because I kind of felt it that it will do at least 2 torpedoes on the right side or left side. I exactly am not sure about that. But again, torpedoes, 15k damage. I don't think so you can increase it further. I hope so, you don't. Let me check. Yeah, you cannot increase the damage, but still the damage is 15k, which means if the battleship is around 10k HP left, you can simply smash them with the torpedoes, easy peasy lemon squeezy, and you can just able to take on that poor battleship that's somehow thinking that he can get to your broadside, but before even that, you get the torpedoes hit onto the stern or the bow, whatever, and you get a kill. So with these factors, with the really good survivability overall, except for the armor, which I would say, again, I'm not saying that Hawke is like perfect battleship, but again, I would say that if you broadside to even I would say Vladivostok or NC, you are going to get punished, but I would say Hawke will get significantly more punishment, because look at that gigantic citadel. That seems to be pretty absurd, I would say. So if you get yourself broadside, well, I think it's gonna be really rough for you, even in Hawke. But apart from these weaknesses, you have way more strength, especially against carriers, that you will be able to do much, and your healing potential, which I have explained. So hopefully, with all the details, I think that the Hawke is very, very good ship that you can pick at number 4. At number 3, well, we have a battleship that I am in absolute love, and you should too if you have one. Well, by the way, this battleship, even though is a premium, you can grind it for free, I think, in the 2024 last months. And if you have that battleship, consider yourself to be a super lucky lad, because then you can have the most accurate battleship guns at tier 8. Well, the meta has changed significantly, and Wargaming also, according to the meta, according to the guns performance improvement, they decided to give the Tennessee 12 guns, maybe 356mm, but having access to something that I felt makes it the most reliable and consistent battleships, at least at tier 8, which is because it has access to 1.9 Sigma, which again already for 12 guns makes it pretty good. But for some reason, Wargaming has finally literally decided to give this battleship cruiser dispersion. With 356mm battleship level of guns, you're getting a cruiser dispersion with 1.9 Sigma at tier 8. Now, sure, you don't have the American Slot 6 module, which can improve the the dispersion even further. Even then, Tennessee feels amazing. The guns are so good. They have a good punch. In fact, compared to the Ipiranga, the Tennessee have slightly better AP pen. And also the shell velocity feels a bit decent. It's not like too good. It's not like Slava levels, but again, you can throw the shells and you be easily able to land so many shells onto a broadside target that I have managed to get more than 20k volleys because of that superb consistency with these guns. Your AP alpha is insanely good, like 10.5k I would say is pretty nice, but what makes Tennessee even special, as I would say, is giving it a really good strength, even though it only has 356mm guns, which means no overmatch, is going to be the HE alpha at 5k with absurdly insane 30% fire chance. Now, I cannot emphasize you enough, but these HE volleys, so consistent, so accurate, and you'll be able to throw in 28 seconds these volleys that can set 30% fire chance onto a target. You're just going to be setting fires on a battleship like a Conqueror. And even though your alpha might not be looking like that of, for example, I would say Monarch at 6.3k, the amount of shells that you can throw, 12 of them onto a target, which is also very accurate with the tight grouping, you will soon realize that what I'm talking about, what really makes the Tennessee extremely powerful on broadside cruiser and battleships. You just be able to trade off so well against any ship that just try to even bowing you or broadside you regardless. You're just going to do so much consistent damage that you will start to get in love with these guns. And I'm not even lying. Overmatch is something that is really good, but if there's going to be a battleship that's going to get accuracy, I'm just going to take accuracy over the overmatch any time. And cruiser dispersion is just going to make it better. Your range is better, long range, 22.4 kilometer, very, very comfortable, decent torpedo protection, decent HP at 61k damage, 61k HP. It's pretty much in close, or I would say sort of a bit slightly behind, I would say, for example, the Vladivostok or the Bismarck, which is 69,000 at 69,000 HP respectively. I mean, it have a hull, a base hull, and that's why it shows 64,000. Otherwise, its total HP is 69,000, so it's definitely slightly a bit in terms of less HP. But here comes the thing. Just like I said for so many battleships at number 5 or number 4, well, Tennessee is also having some trick on its sleeve, which I would say makes it very impressive. Now, I will explain about the speed later, because Tennessee has some of the worst battleship speed in the game. I just absolutely don't like that thing. But again, to compensate that, they have somehow managed to give the Tennessee the heals like that you find on Massachusetts, Georgia, or Ohio. These having the cooldown time of 40 seconds, which I would say again better than Ipiranga at 60 seconds, better than Hawke with 60 seconds. 40 seconds with 5 consumables, you will just quickly able to heal your HP like very nicely, right? And then obviously just like Hawke, you have access to very strong AA suit. You have defensive fire with a very good anti-defense rating, not too far from the Hawks with 79A defense base rating, right? So you can have a decent continuous damage. Now its continuous damage is going to be focusing more on long range and medium range, and short range, but again, it is still very impressive. You have a lot more shell flags, I would say, compared to the Hawke. Hawke has for like what? Let me check the Hawke flags. You have 4 flags. Tennessee have 6 flags. So with the 6 red flags with defensive fire, there's going to be a good chance that average or below average CV can be taking huge damage from the Tennessee AA guns. So with that said, I think with the insanely good guns, really good survivability with HP, kinda compensates for lack of speed that it has. It has tragically bad speed with 21.5 knots even with the speed flag. Otherwise it has 20.5 knots of speed, which is terrible. Your repositioning is going to be impossible, and this is, I would say, is the biggest weakness of Tennessee. Tennessee feels just like a Vermont's baby, but trying to understand how to increase the speed, right? Or maybe will never understand how he can able to get to the levels of Vermont speed. It's like a baby Vermont, but with like no overmatching capabilities. But again, accuracy feels like pretty much similar and on point. Torpedoes can be an issue if the destroyer comes around your flank and can farm you at long ranges. It could be a bit difficult to take down that destroyer with your guns if he's speed juking. But again, this is a thing that is entirely relying on your skills with the good positioning and understanding that if you are overextended, I don't think so you can get overextended. You're just simply able to get from base spawn point to maybe a cap point, or I think, and that's about it. In the rank battle, you can only position yourself at least like one dimensionally, not like multi dimensions like you can do on maybe maybe for example in the Hawke, or maybe in the other battleship that have a lot of speed. So that is why Tennessee feels some sort of having a weakness. But again, this is only one battleship. Because of having 2 strong guns, 2 good accuracy, I kind of forgive Tennessee for having the lack of speed. I mean, you can try to mitigate it with the help of, I would say, brisk. If you can get the brisk, you can get it up to like 23 knots. But again, it's just 23 knots. It's not too good, right? But even then, it is solid. I haven't even talked about how insanely good concealment that Tennessee gets. Just like I said, it's like a baby Vermont. Vermont has 12.7 kilometer concealment. Well, Tennessee has it's not having 12.7 kilometer concealment. It has better concealment than even Vermont. So at tier 8, he has access to like 11.3, 11.7 kilometer concealment. I don't exactly remember the number, but it has impressive concealment. Let's say it has like around 11.3, 4 or 5 kilometer concealment, which again gets it very closer to that of cruisers. And cruisers that are a bit, I would say, stealthy. Well, Tennessee kinda is a big battleship, but a stealthy battleship has very good concealment. So that is why I love Tennessee. So I mean, if you are able to disengage, you can just find Tennessee to be extremely powerful in ranked battle. Certainly because of the HE volleys that you can throw onto the broads. Maybe you can use AP volleys onto the broadside targets. So it is a amazing package. You also have spotter plane. I haven't even talked about you have spotter plane or the fighter. So if you hate carriers, put the fighter with defensive A, and then it's just gonna shred so many planes, which I would say makes it very impressive against aircraft carriers. I would say probably one of the best against aircraft carriers with the fighter and defensive A. And I'm not lying. Try it out yourself. You will really be able to find out that if you trigger the fighter and the defensive air fire on a perfect time, you will make Tennessee strong, at least in terms of anti-aircraft capabilities. So I think I just completely able to give you some good idea that why I would prefer Tennessee over others. You know, the concealment is one of the biggest reasons. The gun's accuracy is one of the biggest reasons, apart from the weakness like speed, makes it pretty much easy at number 3. At number 2, we have the Soviet battleship, the tier 8 premium battleship, a removed battleship that you can only find in the Santa containers that are actually available right now if you want to purchase. From that, you can possibly get a rare battleship that is Lenin. And the reason why Lenin has gotten removed is simply because I would say it is simply one of the most tankiest battleship in the game, even if you are bowing in. Actually, among all battleships right now that I have suggested, well, Lenin is the most tankiest if you are going to be in a bow in situation. Well, here's the biggest reason why. Did you able to figure it out how little to no superstructure Lenin gets? It kind of reminds me of the Imperator Nikolai that has also little to no superstructure. But you are getting that sort of superstructure on the Lenin. In fact, you can able to see that I was not expecting this plating to be I would say 19 millimeter armor thickness, right? It has 60 millimeter armor thickness. I don't know why, but they have given it the armor thickness of 60 millimeter, making it more tankier. It also have this conning tower, gonna be protecting this front area as well if you are bowing in, and then you also have the 45 millimeter sides and 50 millimeter side. Deck and 50 millimeter side, and then you also have this armor belt. So now you can kind of see the reason why Lenin seems to be the most tankiest and also gonna be most powerful in just completely shattering cruisers. I would say cruisers HE shells. I would say this is something that is the most impressive thing on the Lenin. Now here's the thing that kinda really is a bit onto the worst side is that it has one less base heal. It has 3 base heals, but you can get the captain, which can get extra heal with the help of the emergency repair expert. You have 4 heals in total. You have also limited DCP. But here's the thing. You have only 80 seconds of cooldown time. But with this insane tankiness, I have to forgive Lenin for the, I would say, not up to the meta's cooldown time of around 40 to 60 seconds. Usually battleships are getting that sort of cooldown time. But Lenin is so tanky that you just can't forgive for the heal, speed that it currently has. Also, you have fast DCPs. Now, these DCPs are also gonna be a lot much more better in the ranked battles. Now, they're gonna be feeling a bit more tough in the randoms, especially if there are going to be submarines in randoms. It's just gonna make DCPs so much short in randoms. But then, certainly, if you are taking these limited DCPs and you are putting it in the ranked battles, 6 versus 6 ship area, or I would say 6 versus 6 ship format, well, now your DCPs are going to be some sort of adequate enough to tank a lot of the HE fires. If you get a fire, you DCP, you can just do it for at least 5 times with a very, very fast cooldown time of 38.8 seconds. And remember, Lenin, since it's a Soviet battleship, Kuznetsov is an amazing captain which can improve the power of the Lenin even further. Also, it's increasing a bit of more HP of the Lenin by simply using this talent, which is going to be Will for Victory. You're not going to get extra DCP, you're also going to get ship HP per second for 15 seconds. That's also gonna increase the Lenin's total HP, like full HP of Lenin with the heals. And then you can also get the first blood, which is kind of possible because these AP having 1.7 sigma with 406 millimeter guns. Slightly longer reload time at 33 seconds, but again, the formula, the dispersion formula that Lenin has, or I would say the Soviet battleship, the Soviet Tech 3 battleship has, is the more closer you are, the more accurate your guns will be. And your guns can get very, very good, slightly maybe even better than battle cruiser dispersion. Like in the middle of battle cruiser dispersion and cruiser dispersion, once you are around under 12 kilometers or maybe 13 kilometers is also going to be pretty good enough. And since your armor is very, very good if you are bombing in, you will simply able to utilize this strength along with this strength that you have with the very, very good Soviet dispersion. Now it has 1.7 sigma. Vladivostok has 1.6 sigma. They nerfed the Vladivostok sigma. They also nerfed the Sin OP, which you can kind of understand why I am saying the Sin OP, because that used to be very overpowered. Except it is still pretty good, but then Tangshe came. Tangshe just gonna makes it even better than Sinop, making it better for obvious reasons to just sell it more. But well, Lenin has still retaining because of the premium reasons for a premium battleship. It never has got a nerf with its sigma. It still retains 1.7 sigma with the Vladivostok. Which means with the Soviet dispersion, it gets a bit overtuned accuracy at medium to close ranges. And I'm not lying. you are going to pinpoint accurately dev strike cruisers and even do so much damage to battleship at medium ranges because of this consistency that you kinda can compare it with Tennessee once you are in medium and close ranges. Again, once you are in that ranges. So again, it makes it extremely powerful. Your HP is pretty decent at 63,000, slightly better than Tennessee, slightly worse than Bismarck, or maybe even I would say slightly worse than even Vladivostok. Now, Vladivostok has definitely some HP advantage, and since the armor is also a bit good as well, just like Lenin, but still, the superstructure is still gonna be there for sure. Even though it's not that big, but still, I would say Lenin also have Lenin gets even smaller superstructure, which is like funny, but it is definitely really making strengths even more buffed up in the Lenin compared to the Vladivostok. Now, torpedo protection is not going to be impressive, still okay, just average at 29%. Your anti-air defense is something that I would say is going to be worse than Hawke, worse than Tennessee, but I would say slightly better than, I would say, Ipiranga. But to mitigate some of the problems that carrier can do on you, well, you have a fighter consumable, which kind of helps a lot of the situation that Lenin can get into. Like, the carriers can make Lenin life in trouble once you are trying to brawl into against those pushing in battleship, cruiser, or destroyers. But at least you have a fighter to compensate against those carrier strikes just a bit. But it is still not going to be better than Tennessee as well as the Hawke for sure. And even then, I would say Lenin feels really top-notch if the carriers are not going to be that big of an issue. Your range is pretty good. Your guns, just like I said, they absolutely smash. Even at long ranges, 1.7 Sigma still compensates for a lot of the issues that this whole Russian tech tree line gets. At long ranges, you have a bit worse dispersion, or I would say sometimes more bad dispersion than any other battleship, but still, even then, it feels pretty nice with 1.7 Sigma. Your concealment can be pretty good if you build for it. I haven't built for myself, so you can see here, that is my personal, or I would say specialized captain. I don't think so that's a perfect recommended captain build, but again, I use it, I like it, and that's why I'm pretty happy with it. But overall, the speed is going to be pretty good at 30 knots, so it's not going to be that big of a deal like Tennessee. So with that said, I think Lenin is just going to be so good. In fact, I would say because of this insane armor with no superstructure almost that you have at tier 8, it's just gonna be an amazing battleship to play at tier 8 in ranked battles for sure. Alright, so at number 1, I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise, and I'm quite sure you guys might be thinking, where's the Massachusetts? It should be there somewhere. Well, here it is, at number 1. I don't think so there should be any doubt that this battleship is still strong. And even though it got released many years ago, it is still very, very viable accordingly, just like the meta that we have in World of Warships. And hence the reason why you might only be able to find it in the Black Friday containers or maybe in the Santa containers. There's a reason why. Massachusetts, well, if I was talking about the good guns like that you find on Tennessee, on maybe the Lenin, on maybe any other battleship like, for example, the Hawke, well, Massachusetts not only get very good guns with, I would say, slightly above average Sigma, which is 1.7. I mean, it does have a British American dispersion ellipse pattern. With that 1.7 Sigma, I still felt that it is going to be relatively sometimes wonkier, but a bit more consistent than other battleships that I've discussed. At least at long ranges, I find the guns with 1.7 Sigma to be good. But on top of that, you have, well, you cannot get it on Lenin, you cannot get it on Tennessee, but you have the secondary perk, just like you might be able to find it on Ipiranga, but not onto that level, with like having 38mm pen with 9% fire chance. Like, you find it on Tirpitz or in the Ipiranga, you won't find it, but still, these guns, really good reload time at 3.8 seconds, really good maximum range at 11.3, fire chance is decent, so you can still be able to shoot those shells onto the superstructure, do some pen damage, especially it's gonna be, since it's also have improved dispersion, which just gonna make DD lives really of a hell if you're able to fully build for secondaries. It just gonna makes it really good. Now, one more thing that is, it is some of the best, at least compared to many other battleships that I have discussed, is going to be the torpedo protection. Now, torpedo protection is definitely better than Tennessee, it's 35%, Lenin, which is 29%, and even maybe I would say the North Carolina had 19%. So, well, you can clearly see why I'm saying that the Massachusetts is going to be a class of its own. Your guns with 1.7 Sigma, I felt it to be good. Your secondaries, as what I said, it is also very, very nice. And obviously, you cannot forget the fact that you can simply overmatch cruisers because of these 4 or 6mm guns at tier 8. And also, you also have the similar healing pattern that you find on, I would say, Tennessee, Ohio, Georgia. Well, I always use Massachusetts as reference, and I always gonna be using it because of the 40 seconds of cooldown time that we get first in Massachusetts American Battleship. Well, you're getting this reference, like 40 seconds of cooldown time thing. You can only able to do that in Massachusetts when it got released, but now we started to see a lot of other battleship getting this sort of treatment. So you can see that the meta is the faster cooldown time, and you are getting this thing from Massachusetts all the way to the other ships. Now, and even cruisers, for example, like Commissar, for example, even there's a Gascoigne that also have like 40 seconds of cooldown time, getting inspired by Massachusetts. So Massachusetts started this trend, and it still gets this powerful meta, trendy thing of cooldown time of 38.8 seconds. So you cannot really say that it is bad at all. Your healing potential might be a bit less than North Carolina. North Carolina has improved healing potential, like Iowa and Montana, that they have buffed it. But even then, your cooldown time is significantly better. 38.8 seconds is a really nice thing, okay? Then you also have access to this thing, improved repair party readiness. Now you can clearly see why I am saying or emphasizing that the faster cooldown on heals is just gonna make your life even better. You will simply able to get it to like 35 seconds with extra charge as well. Because I mean, if you are a secondary focused battleship and also sort of a hybrid, because your guns are slightly, I would say, overall accurate. It's not like superb accurate, but it's like still pretty okay. It's just gonna makes it really good. Very, very strong battleship to tank damage, as well as utilizing those relatively accurate guns. Relatively. Not super good, but yeah. At least in my opinion, I felt it to be good. Now, here comes the Massachusetts. That does have, I would say, out of all the other battleships that I've mentioned, Tennessee, Hawke, well, it has decent anti-defense. Your base anti-defense is actually slightly better than Tennessee or more better than Hawke. And that's why the Massachusetts is going to be pretty good against anti-air ships, anti-carriers, or I would say CVs. You also have fighters. Again, if you want to not get to the spotting aircraft, I don't think so. You might need the spotter, but if you want to get to fighters, you can just make the enemy CV life a bit more struggling against you, and that's going to be giving you some advantage. Your maneuverability is pretty good. Your speed is pretty, I would say, relatively good. Not up to the meta, but again, it is still, I would say, good. If you have 30 knots of speed, you're still going to be having pretty good time. Your armor is good. Your torpedo belt is some of the best. And you also have 38mm deck armor, which is not like Lenin. 32mm side kind of gives it a bit more vulnerability. You also like a bit of a big superstructure. But even then, overall, I still felt that the Massachusetts maneuverability, because of the turning circle and the rudder shift, makes it still very, very decent in maneuverability. It's not like Ipiranga. Again, Ipiranga is having some of the most absurd maneuverability and the speed juking capabilities that you can get on a battleship. You cannot get it on Massachusetts, but even then, it is still very impressive. The A guns is impressive, the guns is pretty good, and you also having this kind of hybrid approach, having secondary battery power as well. So I think at number 1, Massachusetts is still going to retain a lot of the value. Now, Lenin does not have the good AA, but right? It does have a fighter, but Massachusetts also have a fighter. It also have some good tankiness, not like Lenin, but still good regardless. Making it, in my opinion, very, very strong battleship. I would say among all the battleships that I have mentioned, at number 1. So I think with that said and explained, I explained everything that I have to do for these battleships. I want to give you some few references of those battleships that are kind of like honorable mentions. I believe that you can also play those battleships if you have them in your port, which is gonna be the first honorable mention, which is another Soviet battleship, the Borodino. Borodino kinda also have sort of a battle cruiser likes of armor. In fact, it's a bit weird. It has some deck armor extremities like 50mm side, 50mm deck, but then you also have a bow like 25mm, which kind of reminds me of, I would say, what, Stalingrad? So yeah, it is kind of like a Stalingrad hull. Also, it has a gigantic citadel with 220mm armor. Biggest weakness that I have to say of Borodino and your turning circle is some of the most stupid or ridiculous for a battleship that they have given, making it extremely difficult to turn out. Means that yeah, it is a bit of a weird playstyle, but in return you have 6 guns, 406mm with battle cruiser dispersion and has access to a radar. You also have one less base heal, which I don't understand why. I would love to see 4 heals, but again, for 64,000, it's not too bad, but could be better if you get extra heal. You can, it's kind of like Lenin in terms of the heal potential, right? So it's okay. But again, the game-changing part about the Borodino is going to be that you have a 12km Soviet radar for 30 seconds if you have a mod, which increases the consumable action time by 20%. So here's the thing. I love Borodino because then you somehow manage to counter destroyers effectively, not relying on your teammates and not getting annoyed by destroyers if they are farming you in smoke is something that I just love about Borodino. And also you do have overmatch capabilities that I don't think so that you can forget. However, you can definitely forget is the fight against carriers. Your anti-defense is good. I'm not going to say it's bad. It is good, but again, you don't have fighter fighters. You don't have even defensive fire to compensate for not the best anti-defense, right? And obviously, since you do have a big hull, which means that torpedoes going to eat you like crazy, and you also going to have such a bad time against AP bombs, like from the Enterprise. I mean, look at this armor. So, Enterprise is just going to eat you alive. And any other CV is just going to eat you alive with rockets because, again, big superstructure. And then you also eat so many torpedoes because of the length that you have. It just makes Borodino life a bit hard against carriers. And hence the reason why I didn't able to mention it in the top 5. Even though the radar is actually one of the very powerful counters that it gets against destroyers. Range is decent. And also, I would say the speed is also somehow decent at 33 knots. Without the speed flag, you can still have 31.6 knots, which I would say is very nice. So overall, if you have this battleship, you can try it with these very relatively accurate guns, battle cruiser dispersion. I don't exactly remember the sigma, but it is also very good. I think it's at 1.9 or 2.2 sigma. Again, with battle cruiser dispersion, your gun's gonna feel a lot much more accurate. But again, these are 6 guns, so keep that in mind. Apart from the Borodino, I would say the Champagne also gets into the honorable mention simply because they have recently buffed the Champagne, making it pretty powerful with the help of a main battery load booster. Now again, because ranked battle is a short format with 6 versus 6 ships in general, well, the amount of shells that you can throw with the help of main battery load booster is gonna simply increase so much value of Champagne in the ranked battles compared to what I would say in the randoms, because in randoms you have 12 targets to shoot at, but in ranked you have only 6 targets, and somehow if you manage to dev strike a cruiser with the help of one main battery load booster, you can simply see the reason why. And also it has a better cooldown time at 60 seconds, again making it a lot much more versatile and can utilize it very effectively and quickly because of the cooldown time that it has. You have spotter plane, you have some of the most accurate guns at long ranges because it kind of have the Slava levels of dispersion, which again is a sniper style battleship at tier 10. And then you also have impressive range, impressive fire chance with HE shells, impressive HE alpha 6.1k and 49% fire chance. I mean, you have a very good chance in every salvo you will be able to set at least a fire. 49% fire chance is very impressive for these guns at tier 8 without a doubt. For example, we have a Conqueror at tier 10 that have a 48% fire chance with 7.2k alpha. So you can see here the fire chance is pretty high. In fact, I mean, again, one more thing that kind of makes Champagne good, that it has a base speed of 35.7 knots with the speed flag, can increase more than that with the help of speed boost, and you do have heals, even though one less heal compared to many other usual battleships, but still very nice. And you can also use spotting aircraft or the fighter if you want to. So again, you can be able to fight pretty decently, I would say. Your anti-defense is not going to help you much. Your anti-defense is actually very bad. I have to say, it's like a tier 6 or tier 5 levels of anti-defense. Like good tier 6 battleship have this rating. So yeah, good not. Hey, again, I'm just exaggerating. Good tier 6A, I mean, A is so much subjective that I cannot say that. But 58 defense, the damage numbers that you have on the Champagne is just gonna make you pretty bad if you use spotting aircraft. If you use the fighters, it's gonna help you a lot against carriers. But if you use the spotter, if the CV gets spotted, you can actually able to smash him as well at long ranges. So, because of the like range of like 25 kilometers, you can imagine that you can get 28, 29 kilometers with the help of spotter, which is, I would say, you can just snipe any CV out there in that map. So yeah, so it's a bit of a dilemma there. But even then, with the really good speed, decent HP that also got recently buffed, somewhat decent protection, torpedo protection for this battle cruiser like hull, because the hull is pretty weak. The broadside is very vulnerable to be citadel, and you also have 25mm armor, means that you have to be very, very careful. But other than that, you have a good speed, good concealment at around 13ish kilometers if you fully build for it. So it just makes it really, really good battleship if you want to depth strike ships, or I would say getting consistent citadels because of the insane penetration. Probably one of the best penetration for a battleship AP goes to the Champagne. So at least it's something having special. With the help of reload booster, it can get to even further, making it very strong battleship overall. So again, honorable mentions, just like Borodino. Borodino has radar, but you have speed and the guns, very, very accurate, specialized guns that can even, citadel battleships easily at long ranges. So with that said, I think I will just end this video from here. If you find this video very useful, if you have any question about any particular battleship that you have played, maybe it's not among this list. If there is a battleship that you play a lot, and if you find consistency on this battleship that is not including in this list, well, you can let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts and comments on why you think that particular battleship is pretty good. But otherwise, I hope you have a great time. Take care of the family and take care of yourself. And till then, see you guys into the next video. Peace out.